So, when did counseling stop being about problem solving? Well, not anymore. Introducing solution-focused counseling with the Unlicensed Counselor. And now, here's your host, Steve Moak.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Unlicensed Counselor. My name is Steve Moak. I am the Unlicensed Counselor. It is a beautiful Wednesday here in sunny Scottsdale, Arizona, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, a.k.a. the largest bar night, party night, get drunk night of the year. Go and find your ex-girlfriend from high school and hit on her if you're single or divorced, right? Isn't that what everybody does these days? I know we have our spot up here at Ernie's Inn in Scottsdale, Arizona. Maybe I'll do a drive-by. Just kidding. But it is one of the things, the reason I reference that is one of the things I want to talk about today. You know, we're coming into the holiday season, right? We're going to have a little fun. You're going to be with your friends. You're going to be with your family. You're going to be in holiday parties. That means the cocktails and the booze will be flowing. So if you're like me, maybe you don't have to be like me. You don't have to be a full-blown alcoholic and drug addict. But if you're trying to stay sober through the holiday season, I want to give you some of the tips and tricks, some of the things that I do kind of gearing up for the start of the holiday seasons to make it through the holidays sober. You know, I'm 10 plus years sober now, and here's some of the things that I've picked up along those 10 years that helped me stay sober through the holidays. So I'm going to bring it from my brain directly to your eyes and ears today as well, too. You know, it's for me, it's a little easier because I've been doing it for so long, but there's a lot of people, maybe you're a week sober, maybe you're a day sober, maybe you're a year sober, but still kind of, you know, this is that time of year we can get a little testing, we'll just call it, right? I got some stuff for you today. And you know what? For those of you that don't have a problem, but maybe you love someone or you're friends with people who are sober, listen to this too so that you're not giving them a hard time or making it harder on them as they're rolling through the holiday season. Look, it's hard enough sometimes just to not to have to, you know, take a drink, take the gummy, smoke, whatever it is. So pick up some tips and tricks that we can help you out on this episode of The Unlicensed Counselor. So before we do that, I want to say thank you to our friends over at Buzzbin Media. This is that trash can advertising service. It's so cool. What they do is they pay you to put decals on the side of your trash bins. It's really that simple. It costs nothing to sign up. Go to buzzbinmedia.com. That's BUZBIN media.com. Costs you nothing. They pay you $10 a month. What's there to lose? Next thing I always like to plug is the nonprofit work that I do. Go to thestopstartshere.org. This is the youth drug abuse prevention site. This is Emmy nominated, as I like to say, because most people don't ever get nominated for Emmys in their life, and I guess that we have. Well, I don't guess that we have. We have. That's pretty cool. I kind of undersell it. But what we do is push kind of edgy, bold content directly on our social media channels geared directly towards teenagers as well. We don't want your son or daughter to ever have a problem with drugs. And the best way to ever have them not have an issue is to not start. Go to the stopstartshere.org and parents download our free parents prevention playbook on how exactly to accomplish that. Last but not least, I like to plug me, the Unlicensed Counselor. Give us a follow on all the usual social stuffs. I like people to head over to YouTube especially. We post all clips and kind of tidbits from the show in case you don't have 30 minutes, but I think you should have 30 minutes to listen to the show. Give us a follow on all the usual places. And also continue to subscribe. And thanks to everybody that has. We've been doing this for almost 2 years now. I think we're almost at 100 episodes, Robin. Pretty darn close to it. And the numbers keep going up, so we really appreciate the continued support. And as always, share these episodes with friends and download us wherever you find finer podcasts as well, too. So let's get into the topic du jour. Holidays, it's tricky. I mean, look, if people in recovery, you know, every day's hard or can be hard, right? Especially in early recovery. You're used to, you know, adding something to your body, whether it's drinking or drugs. When it rolls around, and I kind of like to set the point of demarcation right at Thanksgiving is when things start to pick up with parties, right? I got a couple invites to some friends' parties. We got holiday parties coming up. We got Thanksgiving coming up. We got New Year's. We got Christmas. We got trips. We got all this stuff. And a lot of times, booze is kind of weaved in heavily or more heavily than it is in this time, you know, the rest of the year. So, you know, what are some tips and tricks when you get offered, when you're at the party and you know that there's booze in and they got the shot ski going and the martinis and the open bar and all this stuff? How can you, as a person who either doesn't want to drink and just wants to stay sober or has an actual drug or alcohol issue, how can you stay sober through the holidays? You know, the first thing that I'm going to say is let's make sure we don't put ourselves in too tough of situations, right? I understand you want to go to all the parties. I understand that you usually go to all the parties. You get invited to some really cool parties and you want to go there and you don't want to be, antisocial and stuff. You have to understand that sobriety's got to come first, right? And if it's a borderline call or if it could push you to the point where, maybe I'll just have a glass of wine, right? I love how people use wine as like the thing that makes it classy, and I can't be an alcoholic or anything like that because I have a glass of wine. If that's what's pushing you or it leads you down that path, you've got to be able to know yourself, be honest with yourself, and just be like, nah, I can't go to that. I can't go to that. It's not for me. If you feel like you're even kind of wavering a little bit, don't feel like you have to test yourself. You're the only person that's going to lose if you slip up, right? And then your family's going to lose, your kids are going to lose, and then all of a sudden you're back in treatment, you're blacked out, you're cheating on your wife, you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing because you slipped. All because you just went to that one party or had that one drink, and then it starts to spiral from there. So you've got to be able to say no. And I think sometimes, and I struggled with this early on in my recovery, you feel guilty by saying no. You want to do the things that you used to do. You get invited to cool stuff. You've got your friends that are out there. Understand that it's okay to say no, and also understand that maybe next year you can say yes, right? So no doesn't mean you're never going to come back to this party or you're never going to see your friends in that environment or whatever it is. Understand that maybe it's just no for now. And no for now is okay. And I think if they're your real friends and things like that, they're going to understand and be like, look, you know what? Things have changed a little bit in my life. I'm just going to pass. I'm going to catch you next year. I'm really excited for you. Have fun. Send me some pictures later, right? And that's 100% okay. Don't think of it as no for the rest of your life and for eternity. Just think, I'm going to pass. And be comfortable saying no. It's okay to say no. Don't guilt yourself, beat yourself up, feel bad, all those types of things. Look, one of the things that comes along with the holidays, especially in early recovery, is there will be occasional bouts of some loneliness. It's just going to happen. If you can't go and do all the things, and I don't think you should go and do all the things that you used to do. One of the things we have to do is change our behavior so that we don't continue repeating that same insanity of getting drunk and all those types of things. There may be a touch of loneliness along the holidays. Understand that's okay, and that's normal, right? You've got to be able to sit with that a little bit. I'm not going to sit and stew with it the entire time. I hope you get out, go for a walk, go for a run, go to the gym, meditate, find some other type of hobby that helps you kind of get through it. But understand that that could be a part of it as you're going through this, right? Now, here's another thing, too. Let's say you are, okay with going to the parties. You don't feel like you're going to slip or, it's going to be too much stress or anxiousness that are associated with it. Couple tips, tricks that I do in my own life. I get there early and leave early, right? It's no big deal. I don't mind. Here's the thing. People don't notice this stuff, especially when they're getting sauced at the end of the night and stuff. They don't know when you're going. Get there, maybe a little bit closer to when the party's starting than you maybe normally would have. And then be ready to leave a little bit earlier. It's so funny, and I'm sure a lot of people experience, but now when I'm sober, it's like people start to get drunk. They're starting to say the same thing over again. I got close talker, right? Everybody loves a close talker. And when you're drunk and they're drunk, like a lot of that stuff doesn't really matter. Now I'm sober, you're drunk, and I'm like, okay, let's get some arms. It's just like you notice all the stuff that's like super annoying and things like that. So I just bow out early, right? And you don't have to be like go around the room and shake everybody's hand. Thank you I appreciate it. It's called the ghost, right? The Irish exit, right? You just gone. You disappear. No big deal. And honestly, I'd have this kind of pre-planned in my mind as well too. Okay, it's starting to pick up, maybe I want to get out of there by 8:30 or something like that. And use your judgment, but if it's starting to get a little saucy earlier, just bounce and don't feel bad about it, right? People get it. And by the way, nobody's going to notice. Nobody cares. It's not that big a deal, right? Have kind of that pre-planned exit already set up in your mind, so when things kind of get to that point, you're just like, peace, I'm out of here. I love it. It's fun. You get to see everybody. It's usually, you get to have some good conversations before everybody starts to get a little too loose. Maybe you miss some of the shenanigans that go on in the night. So what, right? So what? No big deal. You're in bed. You're getting a good night's rest. You're up going to the gym doing your thing, right? It's something that I think people think in early recovery especially is going to happen a lot is people are going to question why you're not drinking. Oh, why are you not drinking? Oh, let's do a shot. Oh, have this, have that. It's like, it doesn't really happen that much. And especially in today's culture, I mean, drinking has I'm not going to say stigma attached to it, but there's more awareness around kind of the health detriments of alcohol than there ever has been in any point in time. And use that to your advantage, right? I think use that of, hey, I'm running a race tomorrow. I don't really drink anymore. I've had some migraines, like whatever it is, like just kind of be like, I'm on the outs of that. Occasionally you will get that super annoying person who's kind of pestering you about drinking. Doesn't happen much, but I would pregame some responses for that as well, too. Use humor to deflect that. Come up with some little one-liners like, hey, you don't want me dancing on the table at the end of the night. Nobody wants to see that. I mean, make some stupid joke, about it. Find some way to kind of, lighten the mood a little bit and kind of redirect the conversation. If they persist, and some of these drunken idiots can persist, do a shot, you're no fun. Like that stuff drives me crazy. And I'm like, then you need to set like a boundary and maybe be a little more firm and be like, look, I'm not drinking. Okay. Can we please stop? Like, I'm good. Like, just let it go. And either leave that conversation or whatever. But I would draw a firm line and be like, okay, that's enough. And by the way, how annoying is that like 30, 40-year-old person who's pressuring you into drinking? Like, really? This is what we're doing? Like, you're that cool, or you have to force me to drink it? I mean, who's pressuring another adult to go do shots or something? I mean, grow up a little? Question mark? Right? I mean, it's just so silly. And that's just people that I wouldn't want to hang around with anyways. But occasionally it can happen. So have some use ChatGPT, right? Come up with a couple of canned responses for annoying drunk people at parties to get you out of a situation, right? Use AI to your advantage. Again, it rarely ever happens, but we all know those annoying people. It's just another reason to watch where the environments that you kind of put yourself into at the same time. Like I said at the top of the show, tonight is, I believe, the largest bar night, busiest bar night of the entire year, right? There is a bar, right up here from where I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, where like everybody from the high school kind of goes. And I say everybody, like, I'm 45 now. I don't know if that's still like a generational thing, but we used to all do that, and you plan out where you're going, and you see everybody, and they put on a couple pounds, or they're recently, you kind of do all that stuff. I don't know if that's still a thing, but what I do know is someone who's 10 years sober now, I don't even mind. To me, this stuff doesn't bother me. It just doesn't bother me anymore. I'm 10 years removed from my last drink, and I'm like, you can put me down in any environment and be comfortable. So I wouldn't mind stopping in and saying hi or something like that. But at the same time, I'm like, why? Like, I know who I'm going to see there. I know the conversation I'm going to have. Do I really need to do that? So I'm just like, nah, I'm good. I'm good, and I'm going to pass on that. No offense to anybody that does choose to do that. Most people can go and have a couple beers, and it's not an issue. It wasn't exactly the case for me, when I'd get out there and have a couple beers and a couple shots, a couple martinis, and a couple phone calls and texts to people that'll bring me things. And then we've got a problem, right? So, again, I'm sharing just some nuggets on things to kind of help you through the holidays. Now, look, family members, loved ones, let's be a little self-conscious, or at least aware of the loved one in your world that may be struggling. Let's say they have an alcohol problem and they're sober. Be aware of kind of what you're inviting to, and if you're maybe pressuring them into some of these things as well, too. I would have open discussions kind of about this time of year going into Thanksgiving and the family and all this stuff of like, look, can we kind of make a plan of, if I'm just feeling like this isn't for me, or I'm starting to get a little antsy or something like that, maybe I'll text you the code word of like, get the hell out of here. That's not exactly code, but we have a plan of like, all right, I think I've had about enough. Get on the same page so that when you're in these environments, you're not trying to kind of drag somebody away and be like, have to have the conversation. I'm feeling uncomfortable and anxious right now, and it would be more, whatever it is. Have a little pregame with your partner. And I think having a wingman in general, wingman, wingwoman, husband, wife, friend, whatever the heck it is, kind of that you're on the same page with when you're going to these parties, and be like, look, I'm down to go. Let's get after it. Let's have some fun, but I know me, and there's probably going to be a limit. If I give you the thumbs up, thumbs down, or whatever it is, like that's probably just time for me to start to move on. And then you can have some kind of built-in excuses as well, too. Oh, we got another party we got to get to, or I love, one of the benefits of having a kid, right, is like if the babysitter I got to get home for, or nope, I got to go tuck my daughter. Like, it's the best. Nobody can ever question anything when you like kind of use the kid as the out, right? So you can just be like, whatever it is. Have some, I like to call it kind of believable or realistic excuses so you can kind of get out the door and nobody's really going to question you. There's some truth in it as well, too. And it just saves the whole rigmarole of like having to explain what it is and why you're not and all this type of stuff. I think another little thing to think about, if somebody's kind of pressuring you, about drinking or why you're not drinking is don't feel like you have to give them the whole download on your backstory, right? It's perfectly fine to be like, I'm just not drinking anymore, or I'm just taking the night off. You can say as much or as little as you want, but don't feel like you've got to get into some deep discussion and really sharing as to why. I come from a long line of alcoholics, and I was doing some inward thinking the last week, and I just felt like, you don't have to do that. You can just say, nah, I'm good. And blame it on the health thing, blame it on your whatever it is. Don't feel like you have to be all consumed with kind of filling them in on all the details about your sobriety. In fact, I would encourage you not to. It's kind of a buzzkill, right? Like, just pass. Find a way to kind of redirect the conversation. I think, especially as the nights kind of progress and the holidays and the parties and things like that, being able to redirect a conversation, or maybe it's starting to go down a path you don't like, and using humor to kind of shift gears, or be like, hey, what are you drinking over here? What's in your cup over there? Or look at that ugly sweater. Whatever it is, have these, it may seem silly, but have these little skills in your back pocket where you can kind of shift gears and be like, oh, okay, now we're focusing the conversation on something else. Now we're focusing the conversation and changing it away from something that, was kind of making you uncomfortable, or it kind of helps facilitate it a little bit better. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of navigate this. One of the cool things, so I get asked this question quite a bit of like, how do you feel about non-alcoholic drinks? So for me, it's a no for me. Doesn't mean it has to be a no for you, but it's a no for me. Well, why? What's the big deal? There's no booze on it. Then why am I doing it? It's not like I particularly want to. I don't want to sip on some non-alcoholic tequila. Like, that sounds just disgusting. Oh, here's a non-alcoholic gin for you. Look, I get it. If that's your cup of tea, more power to you. But for me, it's just a no. And honestly, it actually is less to do with the taste, even though it just seems silly to me. But it's more about, I don't want to give myself the permission to kind of even think along those lines. And so I just draw a hard line in the sand. For me. That's for me. And that's for non-alcoholic beer. They've got all these non-alcoholic spirits, like all that kind of stuff. Now, what about a mocktail? Mocktails are a little bit different, I would say. I mean, look, the first thing, and this is direct out of the Steve Moak Unlicensed Counselor Playbook, is I got a club soda in my hand 99% of the time, right? Nobody even knows what that is. Now, side note, I did have a relapse, accidental, because I didn't watch them pour a drink one time where I ordered a Red Bull, and they gave me Red Bull in a glass. That Red Bull contained vodka, and that took out the next decade of my life. One drink, true story. I listened to, I think, episode 1, the very first one. I kind of get into a little more detail on this, on who the unlicensed counselor is. So I watch and make sure that, and I'm very clear, hey, club soda, no alcohol, nothing. You want to lime with that? Sure, great. So it looks like a cocktail. But now, I mean, if you're okay with the non-alcoholic stuff, bring your own stuff, right? If you're going to a party and they've got the one, they've got coolers full of everything, throw your own cans of whatever, the Guinness non-alcoholic or Heineken or I don't know. God, all that stuff sounds terrible to me. But if that's your jam, that's your jam. Like, throw it into your own cooler, Have your own cocktails right there. If not, just grab the club soda and have it in hand. Maybe you're not even sipping on it, but it kind of gives you a prop so you're not getting asked a dozen different times a night. What are you drinking? What do you got? You're just part of the crowd, just cruising in here. That's another one of those things people in early recovery often ask me about the holiday. Well, what am I doing at the party? Just grab something, throw it in your hand. I don't care if you're drinking or not drinking, but it looks like you're drinking. Just one less question you're going to have to answer along the way. So just keep it simple, right? It doesn't really have to be such a big deal. You got a little cocktail in your hand, right? The other thing I always think about is just all of these things, I'd have a little bit of a plan in my mind ahead of time before I'm going anywhere. Again, if I'm totally sober and stable in my kind of recovery or whatever you want to call it, like I just have a little bit of plan in mind. If you got a husband, wife, loved one, friend, whatever, I'd communicate that plan and just make sure to be like, hey, this is kind of where I'm at. This is how I'm doing right now. And I'm not trying to be like some high maintenance person, but just it's better. And if they're your friends, like they're gonna understand and be like, hey, if it's too much, like we can just bail on this thing, right? It's not that big a thing. I do want to stress again, it's okay to say no to go to the party. And if you're at that party, you just got to be able to kind of say no to the drinks and things that are getting passed around as well too. And that's fine, but it takes practice, right? It takes practice. So don't put yourself in super high pressure situations where maybe you're not practiced up enough, right? So make sure that you're going in there. No, I'm good. I'm not drinking tonight. I'm taking it easy, right? No, I'm good. I'm shutting it down. I got to get up early. Like literally practice these things so that you're walking into these parties armed and you're good to go, right? Have the game plan. Know that you're going to Irish exit at any point in time. If it gets too annoying or you're feeling uncomfortable, value what you've earned in your sobriety over anything else, over anybody's feelings or any of that, because you know that if you pick up that drink or whatever, where it's going to lead you. And all the work that probably took to get to that point as well, too. You don't want to be doing your 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th trip to rehab. I just heard a stat. Literally, I was listening to a podcast on the way over here, and it said on average, it takes, for people with severe substance use disorder, drug and alcohol addiction, it takes 4 to 5 trips to rehab and 5 years to get like a year sober. Are you willing to gamble that on whatever this little party is just because you've been going to it and your friend's hosting it, you don't want to miss it and it's cool and you want to take an Instagram, whatever it is, like, are you willing to risk all of that? You've been sober for 18 months. Are you sure you're good to go to that? And that's where it really comes down to being 100% honest with yourself, right? Am I able to do this? And you got to be careful. If you got a significant other, maybe it's just like a girlfriend or something, and she likes to get after it a little bit more, just be very mindful as you're going into the holidays with all this stuff. When you get 10 years out, like I am, I'm not saying I have it perfect, but then I think you can start, going to these things a little more comfortably. And like, I'm not saying I'm bulletproof. Don't get me wrong. I'm very conscious while I'm doing an episode on this. It's a great reminder for me as well, too. I'm actually going on the radio today at 4 o'clock to do this same presentation over the airwaves as well, too. Tune into the Patriot, 9:60 a.m. at 4 p.m. today. But once you have a little time under your belt, then I think you can kind of shift your strategy around this. But early on, are you willing to gamble with all the time, effort? And don't forget about the loved ones around you who've gone through the pain and suffering that you've probably put them through as well, too. Try not to just think about yourself and what it could do, but all of the pain and suffering that your family and the money that gets spent in putting you into treatment and rehab and all these different things that go along with it. So look, I mean, it's not easy to really navigate the holidays. And then, just when you get through the holidays, you run into New Year's, right, as well, too. And it's like, oh, it's just a glass of champagne or a toast at midnight. Don't do it. Don't gamble on it. Don't push the limits. Buy yourself another year. If you can just get to bed early that night, you've got till next year, and then you can reassess, and maybe you can go to that party. You can do whatever. So think about these things. Put time into making sure your head is in a good space as you're getting ready to walk into this holiday season. Is it worth it? Look, I worked in a treatment center. You know when it starts to get busy? Right now. You know when it gets really busy? over the next month, because everybody, you got your family together now. Uncle Jim's drunk again, blacked out, passed out. They're heading off to rehab. It's a zoo. It's stressful. You've got to make sure that you don't want to be the one that ends up back in the treatment center because you just chose to go to that party when really your foundation, your sobriety, your mental state wasn't quite there, and you tested yourself and you came up short. Like, that's no good. It's just no good, and it's just not stinking worth it. So, look, if you got some other ideas, thoughts, topics, tricks, I don't care, life hack, whatever it is that keeps you sober through the holidays, give me a post, send something on Instagram, Facebook. Let's talk about it a little bit more. These are just some of the things that I do. Get there early, leave early, ghost. Get out of there when it starts to get a little too saucy. Say no. Say no to the event. Say no to the drink. Just don't go. Do whatever it is you have to do, and then don't feel bad because you didn't go, right? This is just a season. You really need to kind of put that bulletproof vest on as you're walking into this holiday season to make sure you don't get taken out because you chose to go to some holiday party or party with your friends. So anyways, good stuff to think about. Hope you can take a little bit of this home and have a safe and productive holiday season. My name is Steve Moak. I am the Unlicensed Counselor. Until next time, thank you very much.